Yo, everybody. How are you doing today? Hopefully, you're having a blast. And if you're not, well, hopefully, you're going to be having a blast very soon. I am Kryptonite, joined over here with my dude, Manthus. How's it going, Manthus?
Dude, I'm chilling. I'm ready. We have some exciting critical ops sniper action. This is one of my favorite, like, little fun tournaments to do because it really shows who is the best with those sharpshooter weapons.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Super awesome sharpshooter action that we're going to be having, like Manthus said. And yeah, some tactical, a little bit here and there because the previous rounds we weren't able to use smokes, right? Teams weren't allowed smokes. Now we have smokes, so you got to really pick and choose your sight lines and how you're going to be moving around the map and maneuvering the actual weaponry. But yeah, if you didn't know, really quick rundown, Mantis, what can we expect from the sniper showdown this time around?
Well, like you were saying, first off, the biggest change from these stream matches versus before is that now these guys are going to be able to actually go ahead and run the smoke grenades. Limited to 3 per team, so they can't be stacking nades or anything like that. But just 3 smokes to kind of mix things up a little bit. Also, for just the general rules, you're only able to use the ratio and the TRG-22, but more specifically, you only get 1 ratio per team. And so basically, in this 3v3 lineup, you're going to have 1 sniper that's going to be the ratio able to one-shot in the body, and then you have 2 players rocking the TRG. So really got to play around that ratio well and decide how is it going to get the most value. Obviously, TRG could still headshot and one-shot your opponents, but there's just a lot of layers to how you want to tactically set up that ratio to get the most value possible. And then also the players are allowed to use their knives. Like technically we can't really take that away, but they're not allowed to get eliminations with the knife. So they can still like knife head if they want to run somewhere, but no pistols or anything. It's only U ratios and TRGs for those eliminations, and then obviously able to buy those smokes as well.
Indeed, and like you mentioned, a lot of different, I guess, things that teams have to take into account this time around with this sniper showdown. As we keep going along over here, we have a couple quick things as well. We want to mention some in-game stuff. This is the Support Esports initiative that we've got to show you guys over here. So real quick, Manthus, take it away.
Yeah, you guys can see we have a lot of these skins showing up on screen here. We have the AK skin, that SG. We also have the gloves there, which I'm liking those. They're looking pretty clean. And then we have the dual knives over on the right side as well, the Candido Legendary. Again, right now you can see they're 40% off if you do go ahead and cop that until the 31st of August. And then there's also that whole bundle on the left side. Like you do have the individual prices, but you can get the full bundle for $39.99. And you guys can see that message on the bottom there from Critical Force, just to let you guys know this is actually directly supporting the future of Critical Ops Esports if you are buying this bundle. So make sure you guys are keeping that into account. If you want to support Critical Ops Esports and see more stuff like this, then make sure you guys are taking advantage of this bundle.
Indeed. And also, don't forget Esports Mobile. Use that code for 20% off your order at gfuel.com, whether it's a hat, tub, shaker, or any of the above. Go ahead and use that code. We've worked with G Fuel for many years now, and they've always delivered amazing energy products and experience that you will definitely, enjoy when you're playing Critical Ops and have that, amazing flavor and the energy as well. So go ahead, use code esportsmobile for 20% off your order on gfuel.com. Now switching over to the bracket, we're going to take a quick peek at the bracket for the sniper showdown as we get into this matchup. Mantis, any upsets that you can see that immediately stand out to you from what you know?
Well, upsets, I wouldn't necessarily say. I mean, I'm seeing just a lot of 1-0 matches that happened here. Maybe teams that were moving on, possibly through disqualifications or stuff like that. Not 100% sure fully how all those matches were taking place, but we do have a pretty exciting matchup coming up first here. It's going to be Blizzard Legion versus Underestimated on the top half of that bracket, and then later on in the stream we're going to have Monarchy versus Ice. And again, these are the semifinals here, so things are basically it's down to the wire here. Everyone is walking away with something, but also everyone is going to be competing for that top prize. We can actually go ahead and take a look at the prizes here as well, just to see what these teams are competing for. So first place is getting that grand prize of the 5 times champion ratio skins, those mobile esports emblems, and then 150 event cases and 15,000 COPS credits distributed among the team. And then second place will be getting 120 event cases and 12,000 COPS credits. And then fourth place and third place will be getting, third place will be getting 80 event cases and 7,000 COPS credits. And then fourth place will be getting 60 event cases and 6,000 COPS credits. So a lot on the line here for what these guys are competing for. And again, we're in the semi. So anyone who loses today is going to have to try and fight for that third or fourth place prize pool.
Yes, indeed. Underestimated versus Blizzard Legion that we've got going on in just a quick moment, folks. Let's take a quick peek at our underestimated roster. Manthus, anything from these, I'm assuming, veteran players, because I kind of recognize all of these names here.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a couple of familiar names. These are guys that definitely have a past in the North American critical ops scene. I'm definitely expecting a lot of good things from them, and you can see pretty positive KDs all across the board. Tyler, Stylers, Amor, and Snoopy. So I mean, yeah, definitely a lot of players who have experience, and I'm curious to see how the roster is going to compare for the other side as well in a moment here, because I definitely recognize these guys on the underestimated side. And so we're going to have to see how their opponents are going to fare against them and how the KDs are going to sort of be in comparison. And there's that Blizzard Legion roster. We have Good, Darking, and Wheat. Now, much higher KDs, I'm not going to lie. I'm seeing definitely higher performances. I mean, Good with a 1.60 KD, that knocks everyone from underestimated out of the water. I mean, the highest is like 1.37. So the stats on paper are looking a little bit better for Blizzard Legion, but I also feel like I've noticed on the side of underestimated, these guys have been playing longer together as a team. They have more experience in the comp scene, so we'll have to see. Maybe the chemistry can beat the raw stats today here.
Indeed. Well, folks, let's take a quick peek at our maps, and then these two teams can get underway. Of course.
Yep, our map lineup has been revealed. Starting off on the OG elimination map of Warehouse, and then we're going to be taking it to Overhaul for the second one, and then Impasse if we do go the full distance for the best of three here. Now, I'm personally the most excited for Overhaul. I really like this map as a sniper map specifically because there's just like, if I feel like it plays the best for a sniper one-on-one, whereas with Warehouse and Impasse, they feel like they're going to be very kind of like just, are we holding the right angle? Or are we picking the right thing? You know, who's holding the best angle first. Whereas with Overhaul, I feel like it's a lot more about seeing how much map control you're able to take. So I'm very curious to see how the second map is going to go. But obviously, Warehouse also has a lot of wallbang potential with these spots. And I'm sure these teams are going to be trying to take advantage of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. The smaller maps definitely end, or rather lend to a different kind of way you maneuver and play around. But on the other side of things, it's maybe they're gonna be playing a little bit more on the hide and seek kind of side. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider. We also have the smokes, which also changed things up a lot. That's another thing that I wasn't really thinking about. Like, I definitely feel like we're going to be seeing some teams go on the offensive here and smoking off mid, trying to see if they can maybe take control of some of that map space. Because again, once you're able to pinch these guys on a map like Warehouse, it can be very hard to try and hold something down. It's just, at the end of the day, when you're in your own spawn, you're too exposed. And so I think the smokes are going to really give these guys a lot of great alleys to push forward and take some space.
Indeed. And in terms of the differences from the major, like let's say a map like Grounded, what would you say is something that teams really have to, maneuver, not maneuver rather, but kind of adapt to?
Well, I guess one of the biggest key differences between playing on like a diffuse map versus this is that you got to keep in mind for elimination, you could literally spawn in and be dying immediately. And so that's another big thing is where is the Euratio spawning? Like you could spawn in and maybe like the first gunfight could happen like within under a second of the round starting. And so if that Euratio just spawns on a TRG, they could just instantly get the elimination. Or if the TRG player locks in and gets a headshot, they could drop the Euratio player instantly. And so there's just a lot of things that you got to consider on a map like elimination, which is why it's going to be super interesting to see how this is going to play out because you can't control where you're going to spawn when you have that Euratio. Now, I guess technically they could decide like, oh, I have the good spawn, so I want to rock the Euratio here for this round. But overall, there's just a lot to think about. The TRG players, I think, are going to be the real MVPs of the sniper showdown. Though the ones who can get those headshot kills are going to be the ones who are really carrying the team. And especially on a map like Warehouse that has a lot of head glitches, I think it's the best map where the TRG players can try and get the most value possible.
Indeed. And apologies, folks. It seems as if they're having some technical difficulties in the matchup. So I think, unfortunately, we might have to just go to a quick break. Hopefully we get that sorted. We're just kind of waiting for the match to be playable. With that being said, folks, we will catch you on the flip side.
Welcome back, everybody. We apologize about that waiting in the meantime to kind of make it up to you guys. We did want to let you all know we're doing a quick giveaway in the chat for some standard cases. So one lucky person in the chat is going to be getting 5 standard cases. Just make sure you are leaving your ID in the chat and we can go ahead and pick someone and give you those cases. Again, just make sure you guys are not spamming that. Only send it once if you want to be entered. We'll be picking one person randomly to get 5 standard cases. And while we're deciding that, we just want to let you guys know we do apologize. We're ready to go for the match, but we're kind of dealing with some problems with the client for the stream, and so that's kind of what we're trying to work on right now.
Yeah, the spectator client is not having a good time right now, so CF is on the fix. They're looking for that fix real quick. So yeah, just waiting for the spectator client. CF is looking into it, and then, you know, we can start. Teams are ready. We're ready. We're just waiting on that. But yeah, like Mantha said, go ahead, do the giveaway stuff, and soon. Apologies once again, and we'll update y'all when we know. Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for waiting. And real quick, we do want to announce the giveaway winner for those 5 cases. It is going to be Adam. So congrats to you. If you give us a couple days, to make sure those cases do end up in your account.
Oh yeah, and enjoy those cases. Unfortunately, we cannot enjoy the matches. It seems as if CF and the spectator client for in-game is having a tough time today. Not sure what's going on over there, but they are looking into it. CF is definitely looking into the spectator client. Not having a good time. It's just not doing its thing today, unfortunately. With that being said, like I said, they are going to be looking into it. Hopefully, we have our matches for grand finals tomorrow, so stick around for those. Stay tuned to our socials for all that awesome goodness that you'll be hopefully finding tomorrow for the grand finals of the Sniper Showdown. With that being said, I think that's all I have for y'all. Mantis, you got anything else you want to add?
Just again, we do apologize about all this, but make sure you guys are tuning in tomorrow because I'm sure we'll have it fixed by then. Again, this is kind of just a short notice thing. We want to be able to play these matches. We want to be able to watch them. I was excited for this, but sometimes they're just technical difficulties. But tomorrow, everything will be on the line for the grand finals. Make sure you guys are tuning in for that.
Indeed. Thank you very much, folks, and we'll catch you somewhere soon on the internet. Whoa, I'm Jake, sudden death. Peace.